useful for everybody. I think it was a great session today overall. I should admit, very different perspective on how innovation can change many lives. Especially Harish gave a lot of examples, Nandini. Each one of them I think has really inspired me personally, and I'm sure for everybody. Today I think I learned from Harish Bijur, of course, not to use iPad, rather use tissue roll, make notes, and when they become obsolete, just flush them. Just to bring some smile on your face. So without much ado, let me call Mr. Arvind Chinchore, Dr. Shyam Vasudev Rao, and please escort them. Mr. Vivek Nayak, I request to escort them to the stage. Gautam More, Dr. Sridhar Lolla, and of course my good friend Deepak Dadoki. So a lot of innovation in this program because I was told to moderate, and then I came to know now that Arvind is going to moderate this. It's a great pleasure. Arvind will definitely look forward. The session is, Arvind will start with a brief about innovation, and then we will allow each of the speakers to talk about innovation in their own areas of operations and in their own companies and industries. And probably after that, we will take number of questions, whatever are available. With that, I leave to Arvind Chinchore.
So good afternoon to all of you. I think we had a wonderful lunch. Of course, we were sweating. I think we must have dehydrated, and this session is going to hydrate you. I think that will be our goal. Let me tell you that in the morning I learned so much. I think there's so much to learn, and particularly from those who have done it. I think who have done it from a small venture to multi-crore business, and they shared us their insights, and those insights, those wisdoms are so valuable to all of us, and those were very practical insights. So if you ask me, what are those couple of keywords that I picked up in the morning session? Of course, there were many insights, many nuggets, but I think a couple of them were, and one which came out strongly was focus. I think focus became the dominant thought in the morning session. After the focus, the next came the values, the kind of a value system that you need to build within the company. The third most important for me personally was hiring peers, or hiring talent and retaining talent. I think there were a lot of great insights about how you can hire the talent and retain the talent. And fourth, if I had to summarize, is you can innovate even with small things. I think Harish spoke so well about branding, but he also demonstrated that innovation can happen with small things. They need not be always technology. But I have at least few pages of notes with me. So today, I think what we have is we have a great distinguished panel who are going to share their own insights, their own wisdom. And when I start looking at from my left, Gautam, of course I don't want to introduce for long because they are going to introduce through their own innovation journey. We have Gautam, he's a young entrepreneur who developed world's lightest 12-lead ECG machine, and he did it from Pune. It's incredible innovation. And he's also going to show that particular device ecosystem with ASHA workers and so on, so that there is an impact at the rural site as well. Then we have Dr. Shyam Vasudev. He's a multifaceted personality. In fact, I work very closely with Gautam and Dr. Shyam Vasudev. He's a PhD from Indian Institute of Science, worked in many big multinational companies. One of the last jobs he did was he was a director at Philips and director of technology in Philips. And then, I think a few years back, he jumped into entrepreneurship. And he said that there are 80% needless blind what is it that I can do to ensure that those needless blind will see or they will get that vision back. So he developed an innovative device which is called Trinetra. Of course, he's going to tell us about his journey about Trinetra, and also here's a bigger vision. How can I create a solution for affordable healthcare? And he's working on a variety of things. He's a co-founder and with a great vision. So we have. So now we have two ventures or entrepreneurs from healthcare. Now we have a mix of other panelists. But of course, I cannot introduce you, but I think you can help. But I can introduce you to Srikanth and Deepak. Deepak has been an inspiring personality. In fact, when I've read about whatever he's read and heard about him, Deepak is just 120 kilometers from Hubli. That is, he's in Belgaum. He's the founder of Servo Controls, and some of his solutions, Servo Controls, go to a very, very mission critical defense. In fact, he has been part of a Pokhran nuclear experiment. So this is such a proud feeling that someone who was in US, he was brought to India to help in the nation's some of the programs. Of course, now Deepak is setting up a manufacturing plant. He went from 2 employees to now 200 plus employees. And we have a thought leader as well. So once we talk about innovation and innovation in manufacturing and controls, we have Srikanth. Srikanth has worked in multinational companies, and now he's an author and business coach. So he can really bring his own perspective about innovation and entrepreneurship in India. So before I begin the panel discussion, just I thought I will make some couple of remarks about innovation in India. One of the questions I was asked is India innovating? And my answer has been yes. And then I give them the example. I said, let's look at, say, pharma industry, which is one of the most industry which India is proud of. When we look at 1950s, most of the drugs which we used to use in India, they were imported. If I come back to 2000, not only that we stopped import, but we became a net exporter of drugs. But in recent times, we were not just net exporters of the drug, but also we started developing our new molecules. For example, if I look at Glenmark has developed 7 new molecules, and their licensing, one of the licensing deals they had with Sanofi was $600+ million kind of a drug. So that is about pharma industry. If I look at IT industry, of course started in 90s, which is more of a labor arbitrage. But if I come to today's IT industry, I think slowly they are moving from labor arbitrage to intellectual arbitrage. What does this mean? Is just to give an indication that if I look at TCS, for example, growth was number game. Now recently they started investing in R&D, and they were helping the companies to develop the solutions. Recently, I think a few years back, they had 0 patents. Now TCS has filed 1,200 patents in the last couple of years. It is not TCS. Let's look at Infosys. 2008, 0 patents. Now they have 400 to 500 patents. So the companies are investing. HCL, in fact, HCL developed mission critical technologies for Boeing 737 Dreamliner, and their technologies are part of that particular aeroplane. So when I talk to CEOs, when I talk to industry leaders, what I get to hear is that every industry leader today is talking about innovation, and everyone is talking about making their organization or a company most innovative companies. Look at KPIT Cummins. In fact, I know more about KPIT Cummins. Not only that they started with IT services, but they brought in R&D right at the beginning of their venture. In fact, and they have 40 patents, they are licensing their patents. So it's simultaneously, when they were into services, they got into technology. So every company today wants to be most innovative company in the world. Now companies want to compete through innovation and make innovation as a way of life. And they want to develop the technology and license the technology because we have been mostly licensor. Now there is an aspiration that they need to license. So I see that innovation has become a buzz, and also most of the companies, small or big, they have been innovating. So today we have startups who are innovating, and we have companies who have reached, not only just did initial inventions, but commercialized that invention. So for us within India, innovation means different. When every person has his own way of looking at innovation. So the first question to my panelists is, what does innovation means to them before we start asking them some deeper questions? So eventually, end of this panel, as Desh said, that we have to extract the insights, we will get their insights and make it something which is actionable at us. So all the four panelists, right from, you can start, okay. So starting from Gautam. So Gautam, I think you need to start what innovation means to you, or what you think of innovation.
Well, good afternoon to all of you. It's a great privilege to be here and possibly the youngest and least educated in this lot on the stage. So pardon me if I'm lesser at giving a lot of what do you say, pure gyan in this sense. I'll look at it this way, Arvind. There needs to be a sensitization to see a problem happening around you. Okay. And you need to be spurred internally to address that problem. And you address that problem not by thought, but by action. And you bring to the solution a lot of stuff like it becoming your livelihood or a way of livelihood for you. The end is a product typically, or a service typically, which people ultimately want to term as an innovation. Okay. So it starts as a solution, and most problems now are issues that have not been solved in the conventional sense. So the moment you solve a current problem, you'll have to bring something that's more than what is currently available. And you end up doing something that's different, and that's possibly called as innovation.
So good afternoon. It's a pleasure to be here. And for me, innovation means something which is not very different from what others were saying. If I can define, it's a solution to solve some societal problems and unmet needs in a most optimized way. This is very important because a lot of innovations need not be only, earth-shattering or something like that. It can be simple ones, but they are very effective and they are very, the best optimized way. And it should lead to some sustainable business, because ultimately there is no innovation which, if it is not in a position to generate any revenues. So it has to be a very sustainable one, and then it has to grow. So these are the type of problems which, we try to look at, and that's how, we have ended up with healthcare. My friends will talk about manufacturing and other sectors.
Good afternoon. I work in the area of operations, and what I normally deal with is how does operations significantly impact revenue of organizations. And these days, amongst the highly complex and uncertain environment, innovating operation and making it a strategic or competitive edge has become very, very important. So what it means is that an organization must be able to sell an operational competitiveness to the customer and get more order, and that's how you would increase your revenue on an ongoing basis. Now, the traditional way of dealing with complexity is divide into small parts and they try to improve everything. Yeah? And then it takes 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, God knows when you have employed everybody, a whole lot of consultants, and you have trained a whole lot of people, and then you're figuring out what has been the real impact of improvements like TQM, Lean, or Six Sigma. We need to realize that we need to see complexity in a quite a different way. You simplify the way we see complexity. So when I talk about an organization is a system. Yeah, it is just like a chain. If you want to improve its revenue, yeah, like strength of the chain, you want to improve strength of the chain, you want to improve its revenue. So strength of the chain is decided by the weakest link. Yeah. So similarly, if you want to improve revenue of an organization, instead of trying to improve each and every link, just because each and every link comprises of the organization, we must have a focusing mechanism, the word focus, which was invented in the morning, which allows you to identify this weakest link. You improve 10% of the weakest link, the throughput of your organization or the revenue of your organization increases by 10%. So this is a theory which is called a theory of constraint or called constraint management, which allows organization to dramatically impact effect of improvements made in operations on business results. And that's the area. And I think on an ongoing basis, when we keep on finding weakest link, we get substantial innovation and improvement in the business. Thank you.
Hello. Yeah, good afternoon, everybody. I see some of them are a little bit dozing, so I want to make them really awake. Okay? My name is Deepak. So innovation. We are all talking and getting bombarded by this word innovation and all that. For me, the innovation is changing because innovation keeps on happening every time. So when I was working in New York State, I always thought of coming back to my home country, Belgaum, and work. And what can I do in Belgaum? That was an innovative thing. Because my family is there, my kids were born there, and then I would come and earn maybe same salary what I was getting in US and come back and do it in Belgaum, maybe a little less. Okay, that was an innovative idea. Then I got one day an opportunity through, thanks to the Pokhran test, there was an embargo and I was called to India, and I said I'll not go to the big city like Bangalore, Hyderabad, I'll start my company in Belgaum, in a house garage. Hey, I don't need, I have a knowledge and know-how, so I will start my company in a house garage. So I started my company in a house garage, and that was a great innovation. The moment I set up in a house garage, the company, the orders keep on coming, we were doing servicing and everything, and we are the profit company from day one, because I set up with 20 lakh rupees my service setup and started the company. So then I wanted a great facility with clean room and all to do all these critical technologies. So the innovation is how I can generate funds. Okay, that was my first innovation. I want to do something because my father was a banker. He worked like 40 years in the bank, and he said, don't expect any collateral on my house. Okay, and then I went to SBI. Sarin Saab is here, thank for him, and I got the funding, keeping my brain as the collateral, first 30 lakh rupees from SBI. So that was my innovation, how to convince a banker to give me a 30. So the innovation keeps on changing. So we had a fantastic facility. Now the people from all over the world, they came and told me, hey, you can become the Infosys of India in this because you have so many technological lines. You can become a 100 crore company. Already I was just doing a 2 crore rupees company, and they say 100 crore rupees company. How I can do to a maybe 10 crore company from a 2 crore rupees company in the first 2 to 3 years of my operations. And I was making a lot of money. And when I started spending, then I needed like 10 crore rupees to put up the facility and all. How to raise the funds, because the entrepreneur is always short of money and time. Okay, always short of money and time. So the innovation is to think out of the box, find out what are all the markets and things. So the innovation is a continuous process of thinking out of the box to do in a minimum jugaad way, because Indians are very well known into the jugaad itself is another synonym to the innovation. So for every entrepreneur, whoever is in the hall, don't think that somebody is running fad, because nowadays it has become a fad. Hey, what's your company size? Moment he says 1,000 crores, you feel nice. Moment he says 2 crores, hey, okay. So they ask you, they introduce you, oh, he's a 200 crore rupees man. He's a 1,000 crore rupees man. He's a 100 crore rupees man. What is that? So the concept is, it is not about the how many 100 crore or 200 crore or 10 crore or 5 crore. It is the harmony with which you live. So that is the most important thing. So what I mean to say is, don't get carried away by this innovation every time that, hey, I want to grow big every time. See, the nature by itself is, it has its limit. It's like a bell curve, you know. You don't keep on growing till 16 years, you become 5 feet 6 inches. Then you don't grow. Okay, you have to maintain. Don't grow this way. Try to. So if ನಾನೇನು ಹೇಳೋದಂದ್ರೆ, ಅವನು ಇಷ್ಟು ಫಾಸ್ಟಾಗಿ ಓಡ್ತಾನಂತ ನಾನು ಅಷ್ಟು ಫಾಸ್ಟಾಗಿ ಓಡೋದ್ರೆ ಮೂಗ್ ಮೇಲೆ ಬೀಳ್ತೀನಿ, ಇದೆಲ್ಲ ಬಾಯಿ ಎಲ್ಲ ಹೋಗ್ಬಿಡುತ್ತೆ. ನಮ್ಮ ಶಕ್ತಿಗೆ ಅನುಸಾರ, ನಮ್ಮ ಥಿಂಕಿಂಗ್ ಅನುಸಾರ ನಮಗೆ ಆನಂದ ಬರಬೇಕು. ಅಟ್ ದ ಎಂಡ್ ಆಫ್ ದ ಡೇ ಶಾಂತಿ ಮತ್ತೆ ಹಾರ್ಮೋನಿ ಇರಬೇಕು. ಸೊ ದಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಇನೋವೇಷನ್. ಅಷ್ಟರಲ್ಲಿನೇ ನಾನು ಹೆಂಗೆ ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿ ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು, ಅದು ಇನೋವೇಷನ್. ಸುಮ್ಮನೆ ಎಲ್ಲರಿಗೂ ಇಮಿಟೇಟ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಹೋಗಿ ಇದಿಲ್ಲ. ನನ್ಗೇನು ಸೂಟ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ, ಬಿಕಾಸ್ ಎವ್ರಿಬಡೀಸ್ ಇಕ್ವೇಷನ್ ಇಸ್ ಡಿಫ್ರೆಂಟ್. ಎವ್ರಿಬಡೀಸ್ ಇಕ್ವೇಷನ್ ಇಸ್ ಡಿಫ್ರೆಂಟ್. ನಾನೀಗ ಹೇಳಿದೆ, ನಾನು 1 crore ಅಷ್ಟು ಮಾಡಿದೆ, ಪಾಪ ನಾವು ಕುಳಿತಿರ್ತಾನೆ, ಹೊರಗೆ ಬರ್ತಾನೆ, ಸರ್ ನೀವು ಎಷ್ಟೆಲ್ಲ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರಿ, ನಾನು 50 ವರ್ಷ ಕೆಲಸ ಮಾಡಿದೆ, ನಂದು ಇನ್ನೂ 2 crore rupees ಕಂಪ್ನಿ, ನನಗೆ ತುಂಬಾ ಡಿಮೋಟಿವೇಟ್ ಆಯ್ತು ನೋಡಿ ಸರ್, ನೀವು ಹೆಂಗ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರಿ ಅಂತ ಅಂದ್ಬಿಡ್ತಾನೆ. ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಎವ್ರಿಬಡೀಸ್ ಇಕ್ವೇಷನ್ ಇಸ್ ಡಿಫ್ರೆಂಟ್. ಸೊ ಡೋಂಟ್ ಟ್ರೈ ಟು ರಿಲೇಟ್ ವಿತ್ ಅದರ್ಸ್. ಥಿಂಕ್ ಯುವರ್ ಸೆಲ್ಫ್. ನಿಮ್ಗೆ ಏನು ಆನಂದ ಕೊಡುತ್ತೆ? ನನ್ಗೆ ಆನಂದ ಕೊಟ್ಟು ನನ್ನ ಮನೆಗೆ ಬರಬೇಕು, ಅಮ್ಮ ಅಪ್ಪನ ಜೊತೆಗೆ ಇರಬೇಕು, ಒಂದು ಫ್ಯಾಮಿಲಿ ಇರಬೇಕು. ದಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಮೈ ಗೋಲ್ and that's how I achieve it. That is important. What is makes harmony and this thing, that is innovation. Okay, so that is my expression and understanding of innovation. Thank you.
Fantastic. I think the reason I asked this particular question was I knew that one can look at innovation at very, very different way. But you see, when I started from Gautam spoke about the challenges, identifying, being aware of the challenges and finding the solutions. Once we started going towards Dr. Sham, he said the solution has to be sustainable. It is not just that I develop a solution. Then once we get into the Shrikant, he said that innovation is in operations. And of course, you gave a fantastic way that is more about harmony, about your passion, about peace, and enjoying the process of innovation. And innovation is a change. It's not just a static process that I will do one innovation and be done with it. And of course, Deepak also gave some suggestions about how one should not get demotivated as an entrepreneur, as an inventor, as an innovator, and so on. And interestingly, he also spoke about Jugaad. In fact, if you look at dictionary now, and in the dictionary, there are several new words of innovation that have come. And all those phrases and innovations have come from India. They were not there, or they did not exist few years back. So which are these words and phrases? Number 1 is Jugaad. Number 2 is frugal innovations. Number 3, reverse innovation. Now we are, Professor Govindarajan said that India is a great innovator, particularly for multinational companies, and how innovation from east can go to west. There is a east to west, there is a east to east, there is a Gandhian engineering, there is a more from less for more. And now we are talking about inclusive innovation. And there is a new concept which is called affordable excellence. All these words did not exist in the dictionary, but Indian innovators, Indian entrepreneurs have been able to showcase to the world that yes, the innovation can be done, and innovation can be done in a different way. So the next question I have for all the panelists is, I think they should share now that they have defined what innovation means to them, they should tell us their innovation journey. What did they do in this whole process? But while they share their innovation journey, they should also share their learnings, so that all of us who are sitting here should be able to relate, should be able to learn, should be able to practice. So start with your innovation. So they will share us their innovation and their journey of innovation, because all of them are at different stages of innovation. Because when I look at Gautam has developed a product, and now he's trying to sell through his own way into the market. I see Dr. Sham, already his company is valued multi-million dollars. He has been already selling, and here we have Deepak, who has already built or is building the big manufacturing plant. All of them, they are at different stages. Of course, Srikanth will talk about, Sridhar. Sridhar will share his perspective about what's happening in this innovation space and what he can share his insights in this innovation. So I'll start, three of you will talk about your journey of innovation and what you can share all the participants, your learnings, your insights, and then we'll go to the next questions. So,
Well, I'll really start with what spurred this small change in approach towards life. A lot of times in cities like Pune and Mumbai more, you are stuck in endless kilometers of traffic, at least 2 to 3 kilometers at every given time. You're waiting in your car, and somewhere from the back, you are getting to hear an ambulance siren that's honking mad to have its way through the traffic. You are extremely sure there's somebody requiring critical attention, and but what can you do? I mean, you can't move an inch here or there, and neither can the ambulance have any other approach road. In that case, I used to dread for the patient who's there in the ambulance who's being carried to a hospital. Most of the time, I had a small background in biomedical engineering, so I knew that there was a concept called the golden hour, wherein a person who's about to have an heart attack is going to show the symptoms much ahead from the actual event. This is the event. Essentially, when the ambulance is called, somebody is feeling very breathless and a lot of other symptoms, sweating, things like that. And then he is taken to the hospital. The first thing the doctor does, it goes and does an EKG and decides what is the course of action. Or if the event has occurred, he'll show it. Trust me, every time such an ambulance used to be heard in traffic, it used to wrench my heart, because that guy, if he's in this golden hour, he would have surely have a high mortality chances in that case. And you never know, in India actually that statistic is never maintained, but you never know how many people, you've heard of maybe relatives of friends who died on the way to hospital. The reason is not because they were late to reach. The reason was the medicine or the medical aid was late to reach the person. Every person can be saved given today's fast forward communication network that we have. So essentially, I did realize that you can put 2 and 2 together and create something that will get the doctor next to the patient first rather than the patient getting next to the doctor. And the genesis led to the product that we made. This is a handheld ECG device that we developed fully in India. When we decided that we had to do EKGs because one of the most blatantly available problems to solve, we decided we had to be really different. There were EKG machines in the market. There were EKG machines that were put in ambulances but were very static, did nothing else but there for namesake. We said we had to be different. So we decided that we wanted to be a made for India EKG machine. And that simple statement can lead to a lot of innovative thinking in my sense. You just made things for India, you can get them to run anywhere in the world without much of a problem occurring in the things. India calls for so much in terms of challenge. Forget the part where there are 2 parts to this, the business aspect and the user aspect. The user aspect, this machine has to be used in 40 degrees temperature, it has to be used rough, it has to be working just like your cell phone works. And trust me, I use the cell phone as an inspiration. I said this has to go where the cell phone has reached. It has reached in every rural area, everywhere. Everybody's touching screens and using it. So we'll do something that does not even look like an EKG machine, and we'll do something different. So we enabled it with Wi-Fi. This machine actually kind of matches or even better the performance of a GE or a Schiller machine. And secondly, it transmits this entire EKG to a doctor in a couple of seconds. Okay, a doctor can save anybody wherever the doctor is. He can actually give an instant feedback and tell the person next to the patient that, hey, give him an aspirin or just get him to the nearest, the best thing that is possible to have low mortality sense. Secondly, the reason why we wanted to do this and the form that you see, a lot of times I actually got asked by the doctor, where is the EKG machine? They thought this is something that just does the transmission or so. And so then later when they realized that this is it, there's a lot of disbelief. This is what they call as VC terms as magic or the secret sauce. It's just taking them by surprise. The other reason I wondered is, and then the next question they asked me, which used to be a real, pain in the heart all the time, literally, was, is this Indian or where did you import this from? Are you the dealer? Okay. And when I said no, I manufactured no, I hold a patent on it and things like that, then it used to be just a plain sell, nothing like that. And let me tell you why, because as Indians, we are the 5th largest growing healthcare market in the world, but we import 80% of our equipment and devices. So imagine the amount of dollars that we are giving every day, every single day, to countries like China and the US, where all of it can be made in a very, very frugal way. In fact, there are not more than 4 people behind making this device. There's not more than a lot of money, so totally about 20 to 30 lakhs overall in the last 3-4 years that went into that. I never had an engineering budget for making a device like this. What you see is purely a box that was taken off the shelf because we couldn't invest in modeling or we couldn't invest in mold making. And you end up still having a device that's robust, and still people ask me, how much did it cost for you to make all of this? So given that, that spurs me on, that you can make so much in India and, you can match everybody's expectation, over-exceed them and create different business models. The other part is that the whole connected care ecosystem, which was happening all around the world, we wanted to introduce it, and here doctors were much farther away from understanding the whole part of the connected care because communication was not that prevalent in 2009-10. But subconsciously we wanted them to use the system, and this got them hooked on that without even knowing that there is a cloud connected solution in our hand, and we didn't hype it up also. We said this just transmits and you receive it. But on the back end, we knew we'd created an entire ecosystem with cloud connected devices and M2M happening and all the jargon that you can put behind it, and it still works in this context. So.
This is wonderful, great. I think impossibles can happen here in India. So, Gautam, what advice you have for aspiring inventors, innovators, or entrepreneurs? So, any specific advice based on your experience that they can take away from your experience of creating this kind of a disruptive product?
A very big virtue one has to handle is persistence. Things don't happen quickly in 1 year, 2 years. It's been 6 long years. It's been taken to put our feet in. You get the credibility that you demand from the market, from the experts that are involved in all of this. Trust me, if at any given point, if I would have chosen, it would have been much easier to just go and join another company. Okay. So one of the first thing I advise a lot of companies that really are very fresh, younger than our company, the first thing I tell them is shut the back door off. You need to shut the back door off. There is no escape route. Once you are in, you are in. And if you just, simple thing. It's much tougher, by the way. I've become much poorer in the last 5 years than I ever was. But trust me, at the end of it, this is the real value you bring. So many people can actually learn from your experiences. But I've seen people give it off midway. Whatever you're doing, you don't need to have an innovation product. The first thing when you're doing something independently is shut that back door off. That's a single line, right? The rest says it all.
So very inspiring to hear, Gautam. And very similar to that, we have also a device which we have put the eye care. First of all, let me tell you a little bit about how we pondered about how we got to this particular field. I used to be heading Ericsson's R&D in India, where I learned communication. Then my research was in the area of high performance computing, where I learned a little bit of computing. And then I got into Philips, where my role was more towards innovating things. I was very privileged to have this role of a technical director and an innovation manager in the innovation center of Philips. So where there was a lot of support, lot of infrastructure, and also a lot of history behind innovation. A company like Philips with more than 110 years of existence. So we were supposed to innovate something for India or innovate something from India. So this has been a very, very big question for all the multinationals in India, I would say. All of a sudden, we see that in the last decade, the expectation on their Indian outfit has all of a sudden grown up. Every center, whatever they were doing, maybe just maintenance job or some sort of life support and all that, now they are all switched to innovation. So, if you think about innovation, there are so many areas where we can innovate, but we need to really see, where there is a real need. At that time, one of the things what I found was that India has 45 million, out of the world, 45 million blind people, that is 450 lakh blind people. 150, that is 1/3 of them are in India. That means we have something, we have a very huge problem. And then we try to understand why this blindness and what is the reason for this blindness. In the process, I hit upon one of the very good speakers in one such conference long ago, Dr. Aravind, who is from the Aravind Eye Hospital. He is one of the young members in the family, in a family-run business actually. He was telling that 80% of the devices are imported, and in our healthcare, if we have to do any sort of test, we have to get these equipment, and these equipment, as they are imported, obviously they are very costly. 90% value of consumables are imported. Okay, even though we may import 30-40% of the consumables, the high value consumables are all imported. Stents, for example, valves, for example, all these sophisticated stuff what is used in oncology, cardiology, radiology, all that, everything is imported. So we have a huge burden of healthcare where we see that there is very little what can be done for the people in the lower part income groups. And that is when I said, okay, let us do something for us. We have been doing something, we have been inventing a lot of things in Philips. We did the most complex PET MR scanners and all that stuff, but that hardly 3 to 4% of the population here could afford it, and the remaining more than 90% of them just can't afford any of such things. So we said, let us do something for us. I immediately got out of Philips, a very comfortable job, and said, let us start with a couple of my friends. We started this company called Forus. Forus it is for me and my community. So at Forus, we see that ophthalmology is a big area and where there is a need. We have roughly 200 million people in India who need one or the other type of eye care, and we are in a position to cater to just 10% of it. So there is huge 180 million, that is 1,800 lakh people who need one or the other type of eye care, and they don't have it. And then if you do a study and see, it results in 4 things, that is what the WHO says. One is, of course, the affordability. The second is availability. third is accessibility, and the fourth A is appropriate technology. Technologies for healthcare has always been very sophisticated. These all technologies have been, from the West and from the developed nations, where they don't want to compromise anything on healthcare. Of course, we also can't compromise anything. But if you go on adding such features, you will see that you will end up with a device which is so complex and so costly that it is not affordable. And as this device needs all sophistication, it needs a very air conditioned room and lot of power and all that. So it is not accessible. And as it is all imported, how many hospitals can import all this? So it is not available. And also, I don't think this technology is appropriate, because you don't have to have a superset of everything in one device. So we shift the paradigm. We said, let us see how we can make something which is having all these 4 A's. And how can we make use of this jugaad, what we already have, all the technologies today, and see how we can reach out to the people with this affordable eye care at least. And that is when, we said, okay, we did a lot of studies and all that in all the eye hospitals, and see that if anyone goes to an eye hospital, you see there are so many devices through which they put you through. There are at least 4 medical devices through which, somebody will be put in. And, one person will look at the anterior segment, then that is the cornea, then they put you on an autorefractometer, that is another device, another type of a specialist who operates it, called optometrician. Then they move them to a fundus camera, which is basically taking the image of the retina, the back of the eye, which is very, very important. And to do that, they dilate the pupil by just putting an eye drop. Just putting one eye drop makes the whole process very complex. Because one is you are putting an eye drop. So there is at least 5-10% of the population who are allergic to these eye drops. And you don't know who those 5-10% are. And if they are allergic, then they start developing immediate rashes and all that. Then an antidote has to be administered, and then you need a medical support. So this is something which you can't do it in a field. Do it in a rural area, which is around 300 kilometers away from the hospital. So that was a big problem. So, and then post that, they have to wait for another 3 hours before, they can get back their normal vision. So the whole day is gone. So that is a loss of labor. 35 to 40% of your Indian population, lives on daily labor. And for these people, going and getting their eye checked is 1 day loss of job, loss of productivity. So these were the various hindrances. So we said, okay, let me make a device which has the features of all these put together in one device. I do all the 4 in one, and it's so easy to use that it can be taken to any place, and an untrained or an unemployed graduate or an ASHA worker who is trained for at least just 2-3 weeks can operate it. So that was the idea, and that is the one what we call it as Trinetra. It is basically 3 types of imaging in one, and that's how we call it as Trinetra. It does cornea imaging, that is anterior segment we say. It does the retina imaging, that is the posterior part, the back of the eye, and autorefraction, the refractometry, all in one device, and at the cost of 1/6 of the cost of all the devices put together, and at a very high convenience. Convenience like, we have our machines in Dharavi slums. People when they come for lunch or a short break, they come and get their eye tested. Within 5 minutes we do all the tests. This is the first time in the world we have such a device. And then this is just the device part. But still, the story is that how am I going to solve the problem? How can I screen these people at a very affordable cost? And anyway, instead of patient go to hospital go to the patient. That is the paradigm shift what we did. And in the process, what we have done is, a very, very low power, ultra low power device, which consumes less than 8 watts of power an hour, 8 watts. So even with a small solar panel, our device can work. And now this device is put on vans. We have motorbikes on which we have our device like a pizza delivery or something. So we are literally, we are in a position to deliver healthcare, the way, the sachet concept has developed, the way, if you see the sachet concept, how, we have shampoo, available in a small sachet, or a pickle available in a small sachet, and how that hit every household, maybe rich or poor, everyone can afford this. The same way we want to take healthcare to that level and see to it that how this preventive healthcare can be encouraged, and also how we can reach out to the people. So in the process what we see is we have diabetes, which is a much bigger problem. So we have 63 million people who are diabetic in India, and another 35 million who are on the border case. So in all 110 million people who are diabetic, and for them every year they have to get their eye checked, because they are at very high risk of developing something called as diabetic retina. And if that has to be done, the only way is that we don't ask them to come to the hospital, but we take the equipment to their premises. We have gone to companies, we have gone to factories, we have gone to RTO offices, we have gone to almost wedding halls, screen people wherever they are, and at their convenience, and at a very, very low cost. So this is how we develop this. And of course, as what Kiran said, the whole back end is integrated into the cloud. We use the Amazon cloud, and then the reporting can be done by the doctor from wherever they are. They can do reporting from their Android phones or iPhones or iPads or whatever, and the doctor gets a SMS, and then he or she is in position to log in and then quickly report. So that way, we are closing the whole chain. And once we close the chain, we see that we are developing a system where we also keep the records of these patients, that is the electronic medical records. So all these, it was only available to the elite, to the rich, to the one who can afford. Now we have made it available to everyone, may it be in the slums or in the rural areas. Today we have around 350 equipment installations all over India and 14 neighboring countries in the last 4 years. So that is what we say, that it is for India, from India. So initially we started for India, and then once we develop this, we can get all the regulatory and all that done and export it also to the other countries. Yeah, the big learnings is that what I see is as an innovation manager and also as an entrepreneur and innovator, the big thing is idea is not innovation. Okay, only some study says that 0.09% of the ideas transform into innovations. So most of the time, we keep fighting about ideas. We say, oh, this is my idea, this is his idea, this is our idea, and all these stuff. So idea is just the first phase, and it is just everybody keeps getting ideas. So it is not that we cannot call them as innovators. Okay. So innovator is the one who has the persistence, as what Gautam was saying, and the one who can build a team and go with the team. And particularly here we have multidisciplinary team. We need doctors, we need engineers, we need optics people, we need photonics people, all that. That way in every innovation, this is the case. So nothing, is like only one area. It is interdisciplinary. So we need to develop that, those skills where we can work and do something together. And for me, innovation is more of connection, I would say, and collaboration. So that is something I would insist on.
So thank you very much again. I think healthcare is a big sector where you can find new solutions and it can create a new market for all of us. I think a message has come to me that time is a big issue. I think we are running out of time. So I think the next, I think two panelists I will have to request that it will be a shorter one. I thought that we should take, in fact, I had a lot of questions lined up, right from fundraising to many other things. But I think we can, because two sessions have been merged, I think, and an hour is a short time for this kind of a panel. But I think for two panelists, my request is very short. I think Deepak, quick. I think your journey, quick journey, and lots of advice to.
Yeah, I think most of my friends have already heard the story of myself, and you can read it in Rashmi Bansal's book also, Take Me Home. Okay, it's there. And what I mean to just to quickly wrap up for all of you is everybody's talking. Gautam Sahab talked about the heart failures and all that, and now the critical eye manufacturing and all. Okay, we are importing so much of equipment over here in India, and somebody has to manufacture those things. And these are very critical items, very precision items. Can anybody from the audience tell me how much is the human eye can see? Like 1 millimeter is this small. 1000 microns is 1 millimeter, right? How many microns the human eye can see? Can anybody tell me?
5 microns.
How many microns human eye can see?
5 microns.
How much?
5.
Oh, if you see 5, then you are a super eye, you are a Superman.
Slightly less than 100 microns.
Yeah, slightly less, but how much can you have? What is the human hair? What is the human hair size?
60 microns.
Yeah, around 40 microns. Okay, human eye can see maximum 25 microns. If somebody is having an eye, this thing less than 25 microns, he will be a Superman. Okay. Now, in manufacturing of all these eye retina testing machine and heart dyes, like when we do angio, we do the angio dyes, okay, and export to Switzerland. It's vice versa. So, we are talking of the tolerances of manufacturing of around 2 microns, plus minus 2 microns. See, human eye can see 25 microns, and I have to manufacture plus minus 2 microns. My machinery that manufacture that accurate component has to be much, much higher accurate. Can you agree with that?
Yes.
Yes? And that machine will cost how much? Millions of dollars, say around 6 crores, 5 crore rupees. And what is the break even as an entrepreneur if you sit and talk and discuss? That is our problem. See, why the Swiss became the manufacturing hub? Because everybody wants to know like how you, everybody is an entrepreneur and everybody has to manufacture. And why the precision machinery and watches, all these things have been made in Swiss. And why the Swiss people started doing, just I'll quickly give the background as a businessman. Swiss got a lot of black money from countries like India and other countries, free money. And they produced machines, they didn't have to pay any interest rate. Sarin Saab, how much interest rate you give it to me? Yeah, correct. 13% is telling my credit rating has to be A plus, whatever it is. Good. Okay, LIBOR plus credit rate, 13%. So whatever I earn 100 rupees, whether I make money or don't make money, SBI makes money. Okay. So now I have to invest 6 crore rupees and make this kind of an equipment and still make money out of it. Is because I am on a different level field. So the manufacturing juggernaut, the biggest problem for India today is the cost of the capital. And we are expecting to make very high precision. Like my brother is a very passionate guy. He goes to the Paris Air Show in a stall, people come and we have clientele, and artificial heart is manufactured last in the Paris Air Show. And they test it. And the clientele over there is one of our, actually he gets components done from us in servo controls. Okay. He came with this one drawing he sent, and he said, can you make this part of this valve, which you are very famous, you are making for the aerospace and all these space items and all. I want to do it. Okay. I said I had to invest 25 crores just for that. I said the break even doesn't happen. Let's mass produce and then we'll see. So the biggest problem for an Indian businessman or an entrepreneur in manufacturing, why we have not gone in manufacturing today and why we are failed, we will become the global coolies only. Either our coolies were doing Hamali and doing the Dutch and other porters, now they are sitting on computer. The irony of today is, I'm managing the traffic on the Bay Area in San Francisco, which car is moving where, and I'm instructing on a GPS, but I cannot do on MG Road what is happening in Bangalore, sitting there. So the problem with us is the cost of money, the infrastructure, the ecosystem, the critical this thing. So the fundamental thing is manufacturing is the future. It gives lot of jobs. We have to do, otherwise we have to import. We will be the slaves forever. None of the raw materials are done in India still today. I always sit with Ratan Tata Saab or the CEOs of Tata Steel and all that, and we always talk in CII and other forums. I have to import from Chorus Steel some of the metal now that Tata is bought. Otherwise there was an embargo. We couldn't buy.
Deepak, I think
Yeah,
this
the
is
quick one.
fantastic. Actually,
Yeah.
I never ever, I mean, I would like to hear you for hours,
Yeah.
but if you see the lined up there,
Yeah.
and everybody is looking at me.
Oh, okay. So the question is, the fundamental question is, we all talk innovation, everything. As long as we don't provide the basic finance to the SMEs, whatever you talk is bullshit. That's
Thank you very much. I think you need to apologize this thing. I think Ty should give one more opportunity for Sridhar to come here and give his talk. I think we are doing injustice to him, but nevertheless, I mean, I sincerely apologize. Yes. Yeah. So, offline this thing. I think, let me close. I think I have to be very short. I think Deepak, you said, we don't want to be coolies, and I can assure you that we are not heading towards to become a coolies. And I can tell you hundreds of successful entrepreneurs, even Gautam or Dr. Sham. So just quick two things that I thought I should close with. Recently I was in Europe, and I was in the European Parliament discussing with very senior people, and there was a person who works for a European Commission, and he was in India for a couple of years, and he went back as again Brussels to continue his job. And he said something very interesting after our discussion, that who is going to give jobs to Europeans? And he said, that was his question, and his answer was, it is Indians. So, I felt very proud that somebody in European Commission is telling something, but also I felt a bit hesitant, a bit nervous that, can we do this? But when I look at this, when I look at Deepak, when I look at all of us here sitting, and in the morning someone says 23-year boy doing 23 crores business, I feel proudly that yes, I think we have the potential, and of course we need to take certain action, and we can give not only jobs to India but to the world. The last is that about Hubli. Hubli has been my second home. Earlier I used to talk about Hubli as emerging town. It is not emerging now, it is converging. When I look at all these things, I think we have to get out of this emerging and we start talking about converging Hubli. And as a tie, in the tie should be like the Hubli entrepreneurs. In tie is going to be, I think, that is my dream and my aspiration, that there should be represented the Hubli entrepreneurs, and then that becomes the India's entrepreneurs. Thank you very much.
Thank you, entire panel members, for your views on innovation and how you achieved that. I would like to request our time members to present the memento to the entire panel members.